Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate, and we are very proud to bring you the very first episode of the Kill Team Chronicles. This is our series of Warhammer 40,000 Kill Team battle reports. This is battle report number 1. It is a Terra Tactics scenario that is fought between Scream of the Emo with the Crawling Chaos of his Tyranids Kill Team versus yours truly with my Suicide Squad of the Astra Militarum. We're very excited to bring about this new series for you guys. We did a couple of battle reports for Warhammer 40,000 called The Longest War, but unfortunately I only had like a couple of friends who wanted to play that game, so because of that our factions were kind of limited in order to how we could present battle reports for you guys. So right now we're putting The Longest War on hold and we're going to be replacing it here with the Kill Team Chronicles, just because I had a lot more of my friends in my gaming group who wanted to play this game. For the obvious reasons, because of the really low entry cost of entry in order to play this game. You just need a squad of miniatures and you can start engaging in some Warhammer 40,000 goodness. So because of that, we're now running this new series, the Kill Team Chronicles. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to play some background music real quick. If you want to see exactly what each of the Kill Teams is packing from this scenario, go ahead and pause and take a look at your own leisure. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this battle report on a roll. Alright, so the scenario that we're playing on this one is called Terra Tactics. It's a pretty simple scenario. The idea is that you must cross from your deployment zone across the battlefield to your enemy's deployment zone and get off the table edge. The idea is supposed to be that you're trying to sneak your forces behind enemy lines and that these kill teams have been sent in order to stop that from happening. And of course, that's basically what the objective is. For the victory points and the conditions for this game, you get +2 victory points for every single one of your models that does manage to go through enemy lines and get to the other side of the table. You also get 1 point of victory points if you manage to take your opponent's model out of action as well. In the end, whoever has the most victory points is the winner. This game goes for 4 rounds. Unfortunately for me, my friends and I, we actually only went 3 rounds. We forgot that it was actually 4 rounds. That's how the game works before you roll off to see who goes first, so just a little bit of spoiler warning. We did kind of make a mistake on that part. And then of course the loser of the scenario also loses -2 to their resources, specifically on morale. So with the scenario rules over with, let's go directly to the battle plan on this one. Alright, so as you can see, this is the battle plan for the scenario. We're fighting on a 4x4 table. My friend Scream of the Emo is deployed on the far side of the table, while I am deployed on the near side of the table. Pretty much what my plan is instead of trying to cross the battlefield, what I'm going to try to do is trying to intercept my opponent, Scream of the Emo, as he crosses the battlefield and tries to cross into my territory, because you get more victory points that way if you get across the battlefield. Now my opponent is playing Tyranids, and he's playing a Gene Stealer list, so because of that he doesn't have any real shooting options, so I really don't have to worry about being shot off the table and my guys killed. I do have to worry about the Gene Stealers engaging me in close combat, but they have to cross the entire battlefield in order to do that. So what my plan is to basically take up defensive positions all across the table, shoot as the Gene Stealers as they cross the table and take them out before they get a chance to sneak behind enemy lines, and hopefully win through that way by just taking out more models out of action than he does. I will have to worry the moment he does engage in close combat, because Gene Stealers are beasts in close combat, but that's the risk I'm willing to take on this one. So with the battle plan over with, we go directly to the deployment. Alright, so starting with my Suicide Squad on the left hand side there, as you can see I got my little squad of Imperial Guardsmen. I have 2 Bob up in front with Kingslayer on the left. Right hand side is Red Cap Killer, followed by the Saracen, and leading them is my comm specialist Judge Darko. He's my communication specialist, going to be reinforcing the left hand flank. And also you can see in the center there I also have my leader, that is Inquisitor Grigor Eisenhorn. He's just a sergeant in this one, but he's my leader for my kill team. And up front is my scout, that is Red Harvest, and he is located there in the center as well. Also located in the center on the top of the MCI chemical tanks, I have my second squad of specialists of a special weapons squad. Up in the front I have Wesley, he's a Delac armed with a sniper rifle, and Johnny, who is armed with a plasma gun. And then right behind them is my third specialist, that is One Shot Blonde. She is a sniper, and they're located on the top of the chemical tanks here because for obvious reasons they're going to cross that pipe onto the other chemical tank and then lay down overwatching fire, so that way they can hit people with long range with their sniper rifles. And following my right hand flank, I have my first squad of special weapons operators. Up in the front is No Face, he's armed with a flamer. To his left is Chopper, who's armed with a melted gun. And to the right is Blitzkrieg Bob, who's armed with a grenade launcher equipped with frag as well as crack grenades. And that makes it my deployment on this one. Alright, across the table is my opponent's Scream of the Emo's deployment area. As you can see, he's playing an all Gene Stealers list, and pretty much he's kind of centered his forces along the catwalk. On the second floor at the top, that is the Lurking Shroud. I believe that is his scout. Right behind him are two other members of the, I think they're just two regular Gene Stealers are right behind him as well. Those are the members of Imgral Scream, just regular straight up Gene Stealers. On the second level, on the bottom level there, of the catwalk up in the front, you have the Mind Flayer, that is his leader. He's also got the Burrowing Horror, which is his combat specialist, as well as the Void Scream, which is the the Void's Echo, that's his name. That's his Zealot character as well. So those are his specialists located on that second platform, and then on the ground level is the rest of Imgral Scream, which is basically his Gene Stealers. And that pretty much makes up the deployment on this one. So with deployment over, we go directly to the top of turn number 1 for the move phase, and we roll off for initiative to see who goes first. Alright, so that takes directly to the top at turn number 1 for the movement phase. As you can see, this photo is taken after the movement phase, after both of us have moved. I managed to take the initiative on this part. So you can see what I start doing is I start fanning out my forces, is what I started to do. I send up my infantry squad to the left-hand side in order to lay down some suppressive fire from the catwalk onto the fallen highway there on the left-hand side. I move up Red Harvest as well as my leader to occupy the center positions alongside with Johnny, Wesley, as well as One Shot Blonde, so that they can shoot anything that crosses across the opening of the battlefield in the center. And on the right-hand side, I move up my other special weapon squad, No Face, Blitzkrieg, Bob, as well as Chopper, to take up positions on the right-hand side to stop anybody from moving around. At the same time, my opponent, though, he starts spearheading his forces along the catwalk, advancing as quick as he possibly can along the catwalk to try to get to the left-hand side in order to exit off the table. And he's also doing exactly the same thing with his forces on the ground levels, kind of having half his forces go straight into Alexander's department store in the center there, as well as following along his forces on the catwalk. And that pretty much makes the movement phase on this one. Here's a close-up of my infantry squad on the left-hand side, getting ready to intercept any forces that try to cross the table. The little pieces of terrain with with orange dice next to them, that's what represent that those are pieces of dangerous terrain that my opponent has scouted ahead, so that way he can just go across those without any problems whatsoever. And that makes the close-up here on the left-hand flank. Here's a close-up of Wesley, One Shot Blonde, as well as Johnny, putting down some overwatching fire into the center of the battlefield to make sure that no Gene Stealers try to cross through the center of the battlefield. And here's a close-up of Red Harvest as well as Gregor Eisenhorn moving to the center position as well to make sure that no one crosses through the center of the battlefield. And finally, here's a close-up of No Face, Blitzkrieg Bob, as well as Chopper moving around the right-hand side, advancing to make sure that nobody gets to the right-hand side of the Alexander's department store. And that makes up my close-ups for this round. Here's a close-up of Scream of the Emo's specialists as well as some of his Gene Stealers running around the gantry walkways over the left-hand flank in order to escape the battlefield. And here's a close-up of the rest of Imgral Scream moving across the battlefield through the Alexander's department store and assaulting to the center as well as right-hand side of the flanks. Now, unfortunately for me during the shooting phase, when I try to shoot at my opponents, because of the long ranges as well as the obscurity of the models, I had to basically roll a 6 in order to hit, and needless to say, I failed that. So I managed to hit nothing in the shooting phase. Nobody's engaged in close combat, so we skip the fight phase. Since no one is out or wounded, we skip the morale phase, and with that, we go directly to the top of turn number 2. Alright, so that takes us directly to the top of turn number 2. This photo is taken after the movement phase. My friend Scream of the Emo managed to take the initiative on this part, so because of that, he gets to move his forces first. As you can see, he starts pressing his attack on the left-hand side, charging up forward with the I believe it's one of his, not one of his just normal Gene Stealers. I believe he just basically charges forward up ahead in order to engage to Bob into close combat. At the same time, he moves the rest of his Gene Stealers along the gantry walkways on the top level. At the same time, he also advances forward with the Mind Flayer as well as the Burrowing Horror as well as the Lurking, the Void's Echo. What he does is he drops those guys down to the ground level so that way they take some cover from overwatching fire and starts pressing the attack on the left-hand side as well. At the same time, he also tries to charge forward with one of his Imgral Scream Gene Stealers to No Face, so No Face opens up on Overwatch position and manages to light him on fire. And at the same time, he also moves in his other Gene Stealers directly into the center of the Alexander's department store. For me, on the other hand, all I really did is I counter-charged with my Imperial Guardsmen against the Gene Stealer that charged into 2 Bob. I'll show a close-up of that in a second. I also start shifting my forces over a little bit. I move over Red Harvest as well as Gregor Eisenhorn. I advance them over to the left-hand side so that they can start shooting at the Gene Stealers and moving on the left-hand side as well. And I also move up Blitzkrieg Bob to the first level of the building on the right hand side. I move Chopper to the top of the walkway in the center of the battlefield, and I move No Face to the base of that building so that way he can move up on his own time. And that pretty much makes up turn number 2 for the movement phase. Here's a close-up of the left-hand flank with the Gene Stealer of the Lurking Shroud charging directly into 2-Bob, so 2-Bob is now engaged in close combat. I then countercharge with both King Slender as well as Red Cap Killer, so that way it's 3-1 against that Gene Stealer. Hopefully I can survive the first round of combat, even though I'm kind of doubtful that will take place, but if that's the case, my other 2 guards might be able to put the hurting on to the Lurking Shroud. Hopefully it works out that way. At the same time, I also move, as you can see, the Saracen as well as my comm specialist, Judge Darko. They move into position so that they can start shooting at some of the Gene Stealers coming off that catwalk. As you can see, here's a close-up of the rest of his Gene Stealers on the catwalk. These 2 guys are just normal Gene Stealers from Imgarl Scream. They're moving up, just trying to get as close to the table edge as they possibly can so that way they can escape. Here's a shot of the other side of the catwalk on the ground level. As you can see up on the front, you got the Burrowing Horror, followed by the Mind Flayer, and finally by the Void's Echo. Those guys are advancing along the cover position on the ground level, so that way they can move over to the left-hand flank of the battlefield and escape off the table edge that way. And here's a close-up of the rest of his Gene Stealers moving in position into the Alexander's apartment store, getting ready to assault for the center catwalk. And this is a close-up of the Gene Stealer that tried to charge into No Face. Because No Face can stand his ground, he fired with his Flamer for Overwatch, managed to put 2 wounds onto the Gene Stealer, and when I rolled for the injury, managed to put that guy out of action. So because of that, he will need to roll up on the injury table to see exactly what happens to him. And finally, here's a close-up of Chopper as well as No Face moving to the center gantry walkway, so that way they can take on the other 2 Gene Stealers coming across Alexander's apartment store. So with the move phase over with, we go directly to the top of the shooting phase. Unfortunately for me, all my shooting missed, so because they would go directly to the combat phase, and largely enough, if you can believe it, it actually ended up being a kind of a flub fest over here on the left-hand flank. The Gene Stealer did manage to put a flesh wound onto 2-Bob, but because of that, he can still stand his ground. He's -1 to hit, but you know, that's actually pretty good because he could have easily gone out of action. At the same time, my other 2 guardsmen, when they try to fight back with 2-Bob, Red Cap Killer, and King Slender, unfortunately for me, I flubbed my rolls as well. So because of that, it just ended up being a standoff between this Gene Stealer and the Lurking Shroud with the rest of my infantry squad. And so because of that, we go directly to the morale phase. There is no rule for morale phase because no one's really out of action. I do pass my nerve test for my flesh wound, so because of that, we go directly to the top of turn number 3. Alright, so that takes us to the top of turn number 3 for the move phase. I managed to take the initiative on this one, so I got to move first. First thing that I started doing, I started moving my forces over the left-hand side again. I moved up the Saracen as well as Judge Darko, as well as Red Harvest, as well as Gregor Eisenhorn, so that way they can get some good field of fire onto those Gene Stealers on the walkway. At the same time, Scream of the Emo starts moving most of his Gene Stealers onto the walkway, onto the highway, so that way they can start escaping off the table. He moves to the Burrowing Horror, as I believe one of his other Gene Stealers as well. At the same time, his Gene Stealers on the ground, which is his specialists primarily, who are taking position between the catwalk and as well as the fire from the right hand side. They're just kind of also shuffling towards the highway as well. At the same time, I pretty much keep all my forces where they're located at. Blitzkrieg Bob on the right hand side stays where he's at. Chopper stays in the walkway. I do move up No Face onto the top of the walkway to face the 2 Gene Stealers, as you can see in the photo, who are trying to charge forward. Unfortunately, they both failed their charges, so they're kind of stuck out in the open right there as well. I do miss them to shoot them in the Overwatch, but that's okay because in the shooting phase, I can start shooting them that way as well. Also, the side of the table, I still keep up One-Shot Blonde, Johnny, as well as Wesley. I keep where they're located at so that way they can still shoot at the Gene Stealers, either coming from the central walkway or from the walkway on the left-hand side. And that pretty much makes it the move phase for turn number 3. Here is a close-up of the fighting that is taking place on the left-hand side. As you can see, the Burrowing Horror as well as some other Gene Stealers are starting to make their way to the highway. If I don't stop these guys quick, they'll be able to blow right through my forces off to the table edge and smash secure victory points for infiltrating through behind enemy lines. At the same time, you can see that Red Cap Killer, King Slender, as well as 2-Bob are still engaged with the Lurking Shroud. And you can see in the back end there, I got Red Harvest as well as Gregor Eisenhorn moving up in order to start shooting during the shooting phase on the right-hand side. Here's a close-up of the other side of the table. As you can see, you got the Burrowing Horror. He jumps onto the highway. The Mind Flayer as well as the Void's Echo are taking cover positions along that walkway pillar, so that way they can start moving into the next move phase as well. And finally, the center, there's a close-up of Chopper and No Face taking down the 2 other Gene Stealers of Imgarl Scream as they're moving across the walkway towards the center, trying to put the pressure on the center lines. During the shooting phase, as you can see here, basically Chopper opens up with his Melt-A-Gun, manages to wipe off that Gene Stealer off the planet, so because that he goes out of action, and he will need to roll up on the injury table to see exactly what happens to him. At the same time though, No Face does try to cut loose with the Flamer, but unfortunately I did only hit him once and I failed to wound, so because of that nothing much really happens over here in the center table. Meanwhile, on the left-hand side, the Saracen managed to put a couple of wounds on with the with the plasma pistol, managed to shoot as well as to hit this General Gene Stealer from Ingral Screen. Managed to put that guy out of action as well, so because of that, he will need a rope on the Surgeon Area table. Unfortunately for me though, because of the distances as well as the obscurity involved, most of my shots kind of went off. I didn't manage to hit anything, so because of that, it pretty much makes it the shooting phase. So the shooting phase over with, we go directly to the combat phase. And in the combat phase, I do manage to hit with, I'm sorry, during the combat phase, I don't manage to hit anything. My friend managed to take out two of my Imperial Guardsmen, both King Slender as well as, what's his name, Red Cap Killer. Managed to put the injuries on those two guys, as well as managed to put them out of action, and put a flesh wound on the Two Bob as well, which is really horrible. Two Bob does manage to hit back. I roll a 6 to hit, and I roll a 6 to wound, and my friend fails his save, as well as his vulnerable save. So because of that, I do put that other Gene Stealer out of action as well. So because of the Lurking Shadow, we'll need a rope on the injury table to see what happens to them. At the same time though, King Slender as well as Red Cap Killer will need rope on the surgery able to, but and then you also have Two Bob who's got 2 flesh wounds on him, which is pretty bad because one more and he automatically goes out of action as well. So with the combat phase over with, we go directly to the morale phase. With the emo, I do manage to pass the morale phase. However, we read the rules. We thought that the battle went on to turn 3 and you rolled a d6 to see if it went on. It actually supposed to go on to turn 4, but we made that mistake, unfortunately. As you can see on the d6, we rolled a 2 anyway, so because of that, the game automatically ends at this point. Unfortunately, we actually had another round to go with, but that's how we played it because we messed with the rules, unfortunately. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That takes us directly to the end of the game. As you can see, pretty much there's a lot of Gene Stealers as well as Imperial Guards still left on the table because we rented the battle report about a round early, so that was kind of unfortunate as well. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we'll go directly to the after action report, talk about the post game, what happened to both kill teams, because this battle report is now officially over. Alright, now it's time for the post game where we talk about exactly what happened to each of the kill teams at the end of the scenario. We first start off with the Crawling Chaos for my buddy Screaming the Emo. Luckily for him, all of his miniatures that went out of action, both of his Gene Stealers as well as Lurking Shroud, they made full recovery, so because of that, nothing really happened to them. As a side effect of that, because of that, these teams also got +1 to all their experiences, so they're pretty good at that point as well. Nobody really leveled up at this point because not enough action took place. No one really used too many command points or abilities in order to make things happen, so because of that, they largely stay the same. Unfortunately for them though, they do drop for morale from 7 down to 5 because they lose 2 points of morale for the Terror Tactics scenario, and that pretty much makes up what happens to the Crawling Chaos for the Tyranids. Meanwhile, for the Suicide Squad, I do get a couple of bonus points for experience because I took a couple of miniatures out at the same time with my regular infantry squad for No Face, Blitzkrieg Bob, as well as Chopper, so they kind of get an additional experience point as well. Unfortunately, though, they don't level up either, so because none of my guys either level up, and there's no change in my resources either because the winner doesn't really benefit from this scenario. It's only whoever loses 2 points of morale. And that pretty much makes it our very first kill team battle report. Yes, we made a huge error by skipping around, but you know what? For the first time playing a brand new game, you're going to make some mistakes as you go through. So that's going to do it for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and/or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also, check us out on Facebook, Blogger.com, Instagram, as well as Google Plus for all the latest and greatest for all of our hobby needs. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. You guys stay classy. We will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.